Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have some pretty upsetting news. The Office of Professional Responsibility, which is a division of the Justice Department, just put out their final report after they reviewed the unbelievable deal that was given to Jeffrey Epstein and to see if there was anything wrong with it. What did they conclude? Poor judgment. Poor judgment. That's it. That's what Bill Barr's Justice Department has to say about the monumental failure to hold Jeffrey Epstein accountable for decades of child sex trafficking and his horrific violation of children as young as 11 years old. So again, the Office of Professional Responsibility, OPR for short, spent more than a year researching all of the details surrounding this slap on the wrist that he received, that Jeffrey Epstein was gifted back in 2008. And this was their weak-ass conclusion. They said that while Alex Acosta used poor judgment, he didn't actually violate any laws or doing anything that rises to the level of professional misconduct. Yet they said that he closed the investigation, quote, before significant investigative steps were completed. Really? So for anyone listening who's not completely familiar with what I'm referring to, I'll just recap quickly. Alex Acosta, who was Trump's labor secretary, was at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's prosecution, or what should have been his prosecution, he was a U.S. attorney for South Florida. And charges were being brought against Epstein for child sex trafficking and the sexual assault of minors. Prosecutors had, as I understand it, somewhere near 100 victims who were willing to testify and who had come forward. It appeared that they had a solid case against Epstein and that he would spend a substantial amount of time behind bars and finally pay for his disgusting crimes. However, Alex Acosta, for some reason, swooped in and took over the case, basically hijacked it and took it away from the original prosecutors. Then, after he had private meetings with one of Epstein's attorneys, Jay Lefkowitz, Acosta handed Epstein possibly the most outrageous sweetheart deal ever made in history. He reduced the numerous charges down to solicitation of a minor for prostitution, and Epstein ended up spending only 13 months, not even in jail, not even in prison, on work release. So he was allowed to leave the prison 6 out of 7 days a week to go into his office to, quote, work. And as part of this ridiculous non-prosecution plea agreement, Acosta also agreed not to investigate or prosecute any of his co-conspirators. Now, what makes this determination by the OPR most infuriating is that anyone with a brain, anyone with eyes and ears knows this is just another cover-up. The Miami Herald has done the absolute best reporting on this matter anywhere that you will find. And they uncovered the fact that following Acosta's private breakfast meeting with attorney Lefkowitz, Acosta and his prosecutors were barraged with emails demanding that they make modifications to Epstein's agreement. And in those emails, they repeatedly cited assurances that Acosta had given to Lefkowitz at that breakfast meeting. So for some reason, Acosta felt that he needed to assure this pedophile's attorneys, this child sex trafficker's attorneys, that he would be taken care of. And one thing that Acosta has been most targeted for was the fact that he violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act by failing to inform the victims about the agreement that he had struck with Epstein's team. So that literally is their right to know. And emails were obtained by the Miami Herald And they show that Epstein's attorneys specifically requested that. They requested that the deal be handled in this manner to prevent the victims from raising any objections and having a say in Epstein's deal. Why would you agree to that? Why would you violate the law and agree to keep this agreement secret from the victims unless there was something nefarious going on? So these reporters also found that Epstein's side pressured Acosta's team to keep the agreement under seal so that the victims and the public would remain in the dark about what was contained in that written agreement. And Acosta ultimately agreed to that as well. But we're supposed to believe this was all legitimate. There was no undue influence. This was not because Epstein was rich and famous and a lot of his alleged co-conspirators are wealthy elites and have a huge amount of influence in this country and across the world and have a ton of power. One other thing that came out of this report was just the egregious and disgusting behavior of Alan Dershowitz, who was not only one of Epstein's attorneys, but he's also an accused accomplice and pedophile and someone who victims say Epstein pimped young girls out to. So, if true, he negotiated his own deal. And what came out in this report was that a former Palm Beach County state attorney, a man named Barry Krischer, he told the investigators that Epstein's attorneys brought in, quote, voluminous material meant to discredit Epstein's victims. Krischer said that he remembered Alan Dershowitz specifically being, quote, overly aggressive. And he told the OPR investigators that Dershowitz threatened prosecutors by saying, quote, we're going to destroy your witnesses. Don't go to court because we're going to destroy those girls. How freaking gross do you have to be? But yet this is the guy that they hold up on Fox News as a legal expert, as some great guy. Oh, and by the way, who was it that he just defended when he was being impeached? Donald Trump? Yeah, his buddy Donald Trump. Oh, who else defended Donald Trump? Ken Starr? Wait, Ken Starr was also one of Epstein's attorneys. Gosh, it sounds like they got the old band back together to defend Donald Trump. I wonder why that was. But I digress. So Maria Villafanya, I believe is how you pronounce it, she was one of the original prosecutors on this case, and she drafted an 82-page indictment containing 60 potential criminal counts of sexual misconduct and human trafficking against Epstein. Based on those charges, Epstein would have spent 14 to 18 years behind bars. Think of how many young girls, think of how many children would have been spared if that had happened. Because we now know that he victimized girls up until the day he was taken into custody in 2019. But guess what? Her entire indictment, Villafanya's entire indictment, was tossed out because Acosta, for some reason, felt that he needed to take it over. So he elbowed his way into this deal, and he told Justice Department investigators that Villafanya was, quote, over her skis. What the hell does that mean? You've got how many children, how many women who say they were violated by this monster when they were children, and yet she's over her skis in trying to prosecute this guy? And apparently Acosta also talked with supervisors in the Justice Department about slowing down the case. Why? What do you need to slow down the case for? You have victims coming forward. You have tons of evidence. You have people willing to put their name on it and speak out publicly, but you need to slow the case down. So Villafanya has not spoken publicly until now. After this report became public, she released a statement saying, quote, "I am pleased that OPR finally has completed its investigation, but am disappointed that it has not released the full report so the victims and the public can have a fuller accounting of the depth of interference by the U.S. Attorney's Office management and Epstein's lawyers that led to the patently unjust outcome in the Epstein case. That injustice, I believe, was the result of deep, implicit institutional biases that prevented me and the FBI agents who worked diligently on this case from holding Mr. Epstein accountable for his crimes." And so, yeah, there could be a deep state covering this up, but by and large, the field agents, the everyday FBI agents who go out and do the work, they're not the deep state. They're the ones trying to hold people accountable. And what happened? I thought Trump was going to take down all of these child predators and anyone who covered for Epstein. What happened? This is his Justice Department. Bill Barr is in charge, the guy who has covered for Trump at every opportunity. So, I guess because Trump has his own dog in the fight, being that he's also accused of raping little girls at Epstein parties, and the fact that he said, "I wish her well," when he was asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, I guess we should have known this is where it was going to end up. These were the findings and the conclusions they were going to come to. They're not just covering for Bill Clinton. Anyone who doesn't get that yet, you're being a partisan hack. If you can't admit that the accusations against Trump have some legitimacy, you're absolutely ridiculous, and your partisan hat is showing. Sexual assault, especially against children, should not be politicized. I don't care who it is that violated these little girls and young women. I don't care if they have a D or an R behind their names, and I've said this before. If you harm children, you deserve to be buried under the prison. Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, I don't care who it is. Take them down. But with this whole thing, Trump trying to pretend that he's the hero of the day with the child sex trafficking, yet another promise made, promise not kept. I don't want to hear another word about it. If this is their finding on Trump's watch, on Bill Barr's watch, this is a joke. This is just another slap in the face to all the victims. How many times are these women going to be victimized over and over again? It's sickening. So anyway, guys, as always, I will keep you posted. I will definitely let you know if I hear anything else in regard to any of these cases with Maxwell or Epstein. But until then, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching and listening. I will talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.